Hello, yes, good afternoon, everybody. See a few familiar faces out there, and a lot of people I don't know. Got a few excellent people up here. I'm just going to take one moment, because you guys are really sleepy. I'd like to ask a question based on the last one. How many people in this room in the last week used LinkedIn to stalk somebody? It's okay, you can raise your hand. Okay. I'm not going to ask how many people stalked me, but I am going to tell you that, thank you. There are some things that we don't put on LinkedIn. And I'd like to just share something with you. I was a cheerleader at the University of Chicago. And I prepared a cheer for this, okay? So I'm going to do the cheer, and to get this crowd alive, I need you guys to clap, okay? Ready? Here we go! Here we go! B2B rock! So, we are tight on time. Going to be respectful of that. I'd like to introduce the team over here. Really quickly, I've got my notes here. Andy, closest to me. And next to him is Marc, and you've all heard from Venessa. And we're just going to jump right in. So, I've asked each of these guys to think of a burning question that really around data and B2B. And because we're talking about data and communication, my title is the head of intent. And usually people ask, what does that mean? Why intent? And I actually had a conversation about Marc and I did, and I'm sure Venessa and I will at some point. My parents are both clinical therapists, and so they brought me up asking the question, what are you doing by doing that? Right? So I lived in Vietnam for 13 years, some of you may know. And there's a lot of things that people do on the surface that just don't necessarily make sense. One of them was seeing these grandmothers chasing children around with a spoon to feed them. And just, obviously they're trying to get the kid to eat. But, what's really going on here? Why does that happen? Why do you have that sort of an activity where people sort of do things in different cultures? And so when you start dealing across languages and across cultures, and even within my country in the United States, what people do down in Texas, and I'm from Colorado, we go down there and sometimes just scratch our head and say, how did that happen? So I'm going to start and say, with the idea of intent, just, ask the question, what are you doing by doing that? What is it that people are doing? And how do you measure if they're that much closer to, in the case of most businesses in B2B, investing in your product or your service? But outside of B2B, B2C, even on the street, how do we understand that? So I'm going to turn it over to Andy first, because you're closest to me. There's the Andy questions. It's like the title is in the wrong place. Andy, what is your burning question?
I thought you were asking that one.
Oh, I'm good.
No, the burning question I had, when I came on this panel as a slightly different perspective. It was sort of pitched initially as marketing. How do we leverage data and have better marketing conversations? Me, I'm a sales guy. We sort of, when by Design, we help B2B SaaS companies design and build scalable sales organisations. And one of the biggest parts about that is leveraging data to be able to have a better conversation with everyone else in the business. Because sales has generally just been that outlier that sits out there. They get fed the last piece of information and they never bring anything back. So my burning question was how are people leveraging the power of conversations that the sales organisation is having with your customers to build better products and marketing to your customers.
Yep. And so just in terms of the what we spoke about on the phone, why do you need to build a relationship with people? Why is it that someone signs up, they fill in a form, they're a nameless person, you've got an email, maybe a personal last name. What is it about building a relationship that leads to a sale from the data perspective?
The big part of that is making that connection. I'm going to talk about sort of finding an opportunity to make that connection with your customer. And that now there's such an amazing amount of data out there about your customer. Now it's not the business that ever sits and makes that purchase decision. It's always the individual in the business who's actually writing that check. We can now know who that person is. right? Get a really deep understanding of what their drivers are, really, and start to engage them emotionally, and then use, again, more of that data that you've learned about them to start helping them to rationalise their purchase decision with some more data through the process that you've learned from maybe other client engagements, or that you've modelled from other sort of potential impact that your product or service might be able to have for them.
I'm going to throw this one over to Venessa, because in terms of understanding about people, how can you utilize information on one person and the community you may have grown to actually understand more?
I think you can do the human version of sort of a, like for like audiences approach, where you can start by doing that individual sort of sense check on who that person is, as you said, what they care about most, what they're spending most time talking about, and if you can, look for sort of the invisible language as well, what they're not talking about, maybe that everybody else in their sector is talking about. Those can be illuminating as well. And then you can, getting a little bit into the stalking space, you can look at the kinds of communities that they interact with and engage with beyond the exact realm that you're dealing with them in, so beyond the professional sector, within reason, of course. You can get a sense of, this person's really passionate about climate change, they're really passionate about sport, they're really passionate about these other things as well. I can start to tell you the types of tribes that they play in.
Yeah, I think you really put it well when you said the cues, signs, and signals of membership, because that really tells you something about it, and that information is readily available, right? You can use different tools like social listening or your own CRM tools, and if you don't know, you can do look like Facebook modeling and buy programmatically, and off you go. Marc, we spoke a lot about platforms, and I think it's interesting that Venessa was speaking about community, because you work specifically in communities. The chat? Yeah, I think you guys will have a good conversation. Really, what do you think is sort of the most important data-driven core framework you can recommend to startups in the B2B space?
Depends on your business, but essentially every business, you'll love this actually, every business has to make a sale. So your funnel, if it's one over another, I think that at least gives a core structure to the business around at least an understanding of how we get people at the top of our funnel, how do you engage in the middle, how do you get them back, and how do you get them navigated for us. So at Recomazing, we run a service which allows business communities to store the recommendations for their members to actually see. So we get the benefit of all the data around the most recommended tools from businesses. So right now, I know on our site we have a whole bunch of CRMs which are recommended from the free version, Streak. It's been highly recommended, plugs directly into Gmail. We use it. We upgraded from Excel. If anyone is on Excel, please go to Gmail and use Streak. It's free and it's a much better tool. Everything then upgrading to Insightly, Pipedrive is another popular one. Salesforce IQ, which is the mid-tier level. Salesforce is actually put in the market for SMEs. Really sophisticated, a lot of functionality on that. Really nice task headings, understanding about your customer. Every time you get an email, you can connect via LinkedIn within the program. That's really good one too. But I would say if you're going to pick one tool for your business, you need a CRM. Everything, whether it's sales, whether it's we do it for investor management, we do it for PR management, we do it for blog management, anything that requires a workflow, work stream, and measurement around that, CRM is perfect for that.
Okay. And I think most of the audience, I'm hoping, is familiar with the marketing funnel, but in B2B space, we typically don't look at the B2C thinking. Usually a top of funnel where you're trying to prospect for potential customers, and there's a bottom funnel where you're nurturing until you actually close a sale. A lot of times, I think where people fall apart is we lose sight after someone buys something. But B2B is oftentimes about subscription and spending money over time, so the lifetime value for a customer. I'm going to go back to Marc for a sec. Can you just tell us a little bit about, and I know no salesy, but what Marc's company does is very interesting and Recomazing. What is the value of advocacy, and what role do they play?
Yeah, so just to define advocacy, because it's a misunderstood kind of area. So essentially, there's a big shift in marketing from spending on advertising, getting people into our ecosystem, and towards actually let's create a great customer experience, so good that our customers do our marketing for us. It's a far more sustainable long-term play. It's a far more cost-effective play if you can get that customer experience right. So you see a lot of brands traditionally will now be putting a lot more influence and importance on their Net Promoter Score. There's probably some people in the audience, some nodding. They're doing the same, which essentially measures the likelihood from your customer to recommend. You want to get that as close to obviously 100% as possible. But really the value of advocacy, and there's a whole bunch of stats, which I'm happy if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll send you a whole bunch on them, but advocates are 5 times more valuable than your average customer, far more valuable than just a loyalist. You may look at your customers and define loyalty by the timeline of their purchase. So great, these people purchase from us every month, that's fantastic. You might think that they're actually your most valuable customer, but are they recommending you? Have you got tools in place to understand if they are recommending you? Have you, as Venessa said, you don't get to see what happens in these communities in Facebook pages, between friends, between these offline discussions. No social listening tool can give you access to these private discussions. That's kind of where our site plays, in that we tap into communities, co-working spaces, accelerators, meetups, Facebook business pages to set up a space for their members to actually recommend between each other. We then give the brands who are getting recommended an insight into how well you're going. Are people recommending you, and to understand advocacy? Because it's advocacy ultimately, the brands that you showed there around Slack and Amex, Open Forum, the ones that are creating genuine advocates, the ones who are creating a good experience, are the ones that are winning. And no longer can a brand rely on their marketing budget. If you're spending money on ads to get people in, and that's your only source of advocacy, you're going to lose, you're going to be disrupted.
Yeah. And speaking about advocacy, Andy, we were talking about the relationship building. I'm not sure if you use the Charlie app that we spoke about earlier, but just what if you have, do you use it at all? Or?
I don't use Charlie. There's a couple of similar ones.
Okay.
Crystal Knows is one that's sort of pretty similar as well, which would just basically goes through the people you're going to write an email to, perhaps you're connecting to on LinkedIn, and then takes you, actually helps you, searches the open web and tells you what type of language they respond to. I mean, they say maybe they only like 3 bullet points in their email. They'll tell you that. Right? These are the types of elements that sort of help you make that, utilising the data out there to make a stronger connection with the individuals you're engaging. So I prefer that one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was talking about tools, not the kind you find in the tool shed. Venessa, are there any tools that you could recommend outside of the other ones that were listed on there that you've used to sort of, not necessarily manage the community, but really around managing the data and understanding what people are saying and doing, you can actually take action on?
Yeah, absolutely. All the tools that guys talked about are great, and there really is a fantastic spectrum of them out there now, which is great, across the price spectrum, which is particularly helpful for a startup as well. So when we use a lot of marketing automation systems. Where I work at Green Hat, we do a lot of work in the marketing automation space to help connect exactly what we were talking about, to figure out who the right people to talk to are, what the right time to connect the right conversation and content with them is, and then what that content looks like as well. And tools like Recomazing, particularly useful, just to be able to kind of break down various qualifiers of how those people are engaging with your brand, your content, and if you can overlay that with some of those other tools to map how they're doing on the external web as well as with your direct communications, that can be quite a cool 360 view.
So you said Domo, right? Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Domo is a business intelligence platform that basically visualizes data for you, and there are some that will allow you to do the visualization on the fly in the platform, in memory, and so that Domo does that. There are others like Tableau that require connection with data on the back end, where you still need to set up the database. I will say, this is a nice, interesting topic, there are some tools, like Charlie, where you just, and it sounds like Crystal Knows, everyone take note, where you basically press play and it does it for you. Calendly is another one, right? Allows you to sort of automate some of your activity. Anyone that's on the X.AI beta with Amy and Andrew, I think. Very interesting.
Did you not get the invite?
I was a little bit late on it. Yeah. But I did have a conversation with another one, and after 3 emails, I did not realize I was talking to a robot. So
I had the exact same experience.
there you
And I
go.
pride myself on picking bots.
But some of these platforms require expertise. You know, you put an unexperienced driver in a Ferrari or Maserati, they're going to be looking like fools. And if you guys could just each maybe give an example of the tools that you've used, and just a quick, how do you get past the initial flubbing phase where you're just stumbling and wasting time, and where eventually, like in a Domo, possibly you might not actually get the best use out of it because you've gotten frustrated out of the water.
And I think that's the case with a lot of these really fantastic tools and platforms. Some of them are actually pretty sophisticated and do remarkable things, but you sometimes feel like you need a bit of a degree to kind of uncork them. So I think there's a few things. One of them is, it's obviously some level of bias here to full disclosure because that's what I do for a living, but having good, friendly interpreters can help, so you don't have to do it all yourself. So what we do at Greenhat is interpret it to a large extent. We do some of that interpretation and heavy lifting in the detail that our businesses and clients that we work with can't be bothered with. It's not important to them. They want to focus on other things. The other thing is there are a lot of really great self-serve options out there as well. So there's so much useful content, many within communities, with people that are on the same journey, on the same trajectory. And you can sort of, if you can find a group of like minds and sort of ask questions, where are you at? There's user groups, there's meetups, there's so many really helpful little bubbles of context of people doing similar things, having similar problems. If you can tap into those, that's one way. There's others as well, but I think that's
Yeah, it's a really common problem. Because we work in business communities, you obviously see quite often, particularly in startups, because you have no legacy systems. You're kind of going out there going, great, the world's my oyster, I can pick any single tool I want to. I heard this is fantastic, let's go learn it, and then we're going to do this and this, and we're going to do this and this. And as you said, it's like you agree, or it's like a second language that you have to build, and a lot of it is a big investment in time. So you really need to be absolutely sure you've worked out what your workflow is and how this tool is actually going to help. If something else does 80% of it and gets you there, focus on that first before you go introduce a new tool which you're not really sure about. You're going to spend a whole lot of time learning on, because then you understand more about the process, get it right, and then really is this tool needed, and is the investment in time worthwhile? There's a lot of tools, talking back to data-driven marketing, there's certainly a lot of tools as well that I think the data that comes out of it can be misinterpreted or can be more important than it should be to drive business decisions. We were talking about this one that really interestingly, I used to come from marketing agency space, we used to use a lot of social listening tools. Sentiment analysis and contextual analysis is something where it leaves a lot to be desired, I guess. But it
doesn't do sarcasm well.
No.
And Australians are quite sarcastic.
Exactly. So if I say, oh, that was really awesome, well, I'm going to go to that event again, and it's actually sucked, and it's never going to pick up, it's going to put it as positive. So it's not, there's a lot of vagueness around it where it's just not going to pick it up. And a perfect example was when we started Recomazing, it's all about positive. It's exactly word of mouth in the community. You say, hey, do you want to have a good tool for customer automation? Yep, use Freshdesk. Freshdesk is great. It's all positive recommendations. Now, any brand in the world would love to have that. It's obviously 100% positive. Out of interest, we put a sentiment tracker in the background of our platform just to track what was happening with comments and how it was tracking. And it only put it 60%, even though 100% of the commentary was a recommendation of what to use. So it just showed how incorrect it is. And when you put that on a grand scale, the clients we used to work with, which are the Coca-Colas and Telstras, that all those clients who were using this textual analysis as a data input into making business decisions, not to talk about those clients, it's obviously how much value you put into it, but should it be a data input? Should you really be taking that much interest in what that says if it's going to get it that wrong? So I think as well, just understanding the value it's going to bring to you and how much focus you should put on certain data points.
Can I just add, my managing director and I just came this morning from a chat with one of the heads of analytics at Google, and she was talking about good test design. So she works in the test space in analytics and designing great A/B tests and multivariate tests and really amazing technical brain. But she was just talking about some key tips that I think apply perfectly in this case as well, which is the fact that you've got to, particularly in the B2B space where these buying cycles can be very long, you've got to give yourself enough time to amass a meaningful data set as well. So also it's tempting to, if you get an initial, something you think is a lesson, something you go, that's a spike, that tells me something. We've just launched a new website, traffic's gone through the roof, must be important, fantastic website tip. Well, A, you probably haven't controlled for the variables in that. B, let's see if it's repeatable and scalable and all the rest of it, and look at it over time. So I think with these data inputs like those textual crawls and things like that, apart from just putting it in context, you've also got to look at things over a little bit of a shelf life, which can be difficult when you've got day-to-day pressing business decisions. But it's important to isolate things where you can get the low-hanging data wins, and then think about the things that you want to take a more longitudinal approach with.
I'm going to switch gears for a sec and go to Andy. Thank you for that. It's really good. Account-based marketing is one of the hottest and potentially most valuable tools for B2B marketing you can use. And for those of you who don't know what account-based marketing is, I'll let Andy explain his definition of it. But I'd also like you to say, why is it valuable and why is it potentially just a load of crap?
Well, I don't know, just hands up, everyone heard account-based marketing? It's effectively how you used to go to market 15 years ago before there was marketing automation. Like sales and marketing actually work together, identify some targets, and then they'd strategically go and approach them. When marketing automation came out, it started sort of in this big sort of spray and pray opportunity where you just go, let's come and bring some inbound activity for us, and everyone sort of lost track of that. And so now with over the last sort of Dreamforce a couple of months ago or a month ago, it was the biggest thing. Because there's a whole bunch of technology out there now that enables you to better target people, identify the people you want to target, and then measure the approaches that you're doing towards them from a marketing and a sales perspective. So, look, I'm a huge fan. I think it's sort of immensely powerful when you're starting to approach companies that are going to deliver you a decent sort of average contract value. It's definitely worthwhile teaming up to be able to hit multiple people within the account on a really structured method. And more importantly, it creates a common language for you to be able to speak within the organisation as to who you're trying to engage that actually ties into revenue. So often there's sort of just created silos because the data doesn't tie in between what happens at the top of the funnel and what happens at the end of the funnel. Marketing is saying we're delivering you all the leads, why the hell aren't you closing them? And sales is just whinging that the leads are crap. But that's not the conversation that it should be. It's everyone's working to the same revenue number, and that's why I think account-based marketing really does drive people towards. And look, there's a whole bunch of tools and technology out there that help them. Engagio is one that actually sort of just one piece of software that does tie all that together. But you can even go to the point of actually starting to measure what happens in your salesperson's email conversations, which is one big gap that just sort of comes out of the whole engagement speed and actually gives marketing a little bit more of an understanding of the conversations that are happening.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're actually going to stick to the time. There's 15 seconds left. Is there a single burning question from the audience that we can get? Let's see.
Maybe you can do more of the cheer.
Yeah, sure. No, I think, look, we're out of time. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys coming up. And give a round of applause to the panel. Thank you.